and welcome to this performance on the 17th of February. This is Wednesday session of Piano Hour with myself, Christopher Duigan, coming to you from my home in KwaZulu-Natal. We hope you can join us for the next hour or so of some very varied music, a real varied choice, and somewhat of a best of, I think, tonight. Some very popular favorites and highlights in this evening's program. And we hope you can join us for the session, which is broadcast or sent out on various platforms, including my website, our YouTube channel, Vimeo, and on various Facebook pages. We have had a problem with the feed being distributed to my personal Facebook page, but it is going to the pages Christopher Duigan and Music Revival, etc., etc. Hello, Lucy. Yes, I see you there. So this evening's program, I've had response from a number of people over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, that have said to me that they really notice the difference, or they really enjoy more the performances or the live session, the live streams, where I play from memory, whereas I don't use printed music, or I don't use my iPad. And certainly there's an element of enjoyment to this play, I think, both from a visual point of view, where I'm not distracted, I'm not looking at something and reading music. But even with myself, I find that I'm somewhat more engaged with the music when I'm playing from my internal memory, rather than the iPad memory, you might say. And it's just one of those things. It's a long process, and it often takes many months to memorize these pieces and to absorb them. And unfortunately, if I only play it from memory, then the repertoire that I'd be able to bring you would be very limited. And one of the issues, or one of the parts of these live stream programs, live stream sessions that I'm really excited about, is to discover new music myself, but also to share new repertoire and new ideas with you. And it would be a little bit dull if I played the same pieces every week. Maybe Lucy disagrees. Do you think it should play the same things every week? Hey Lucy, I'm going to speak to you now. So this evening I am going to play a program completely from memory, and I'm not going to use the iPad at all. And I will do this ongoing. I obviously do try and do it as much as I can, but it does not only add a huge risk and a huge stress to the performance, which in some ways is good, but to do this twice a week from memory is just impossible. And also the amount of repertoire. I mean, we came up for stream 100, and to get through all this repertoire from memory would be impossible. So it's a balance here and there, and I'm going to play a wonderful selection from memory this evening. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. It's going to be a focus on the music and the performance. So at 6 o'clock, we're going to dive straight into the session. I'm going to start off with three rather exotic pieces, the first of which really goes back to the beginning, a piece of music that I've started so many of my concerts with historically, and that is Mozart's Turkish Rondo, or the Rondo alla Turca, the last movement of the Sonata K331 in A major. In this piece of music, Mozart, very fashionable at the time, and he wrote a couple for an opera in particular, which was set in the Turkish style, and in order to create something of that atmosphere, he had to include, in your basket, come on, in your basket, there we go, in your basket, he had to include Turkish-style instruments, which is the drums, cymbals, and triangles. And these were the instruments that the Turkish Janissary band, the marching Janissary musicians who led the Turkish army into war. Remember, they came to Vienna to hold the town siege. They never actually got into the city itself, but they brought with them these instruments which they left behind. And in Mozart's time, some 100 to 300 years later, to celebrate this victory over the Turks and to relive this Turkish style, they included these instruments in their music. And so this is how Mozart, in this piano piece, kind of emulates this Turkish rhythm, something of the modal element in the melody and this driving rhythm and drums. Striding drums as they march into war. So that's the Turkish Rondo to start. Straight after that, I'm going to play the beautiful Intermezzo by the Mexican composer Manuel Ponce. Certainly a favorite, a very rare piece of music, rarely played, but it's been a favorite of many in these live streams. It's a very beautiful atmospheric piece of music. And the last of these three exotic items to start this evening's program, the Ritual Fire Dance by the Spanish composer Manuel de Falla. Now, in this ballet music that he wrote for a dance piece, In this particular scene, the dancers are cleansed by the medium of fire to cleanse themselves and ward off evil and bad spirits. So it's a very driven, a very exciting piece of music. It's got a huge dynamic range, you might say, which for us means from very loud to very soft, but full of contrasts and full of whirling verve. So this is the Turkish Rondo, the Intermezzo by Ponce and Manuel de Falla's Ritual Fire Dance. dramatic ending there. It's always a fun moment to reach right at the end. The Ritual Fire Dance by the composer Manuel de Falla. Before that, Intermezzo by the Mexican composer Manuel Ponce. And to start off that, not a Manuel, but a Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in his Turkish rondo, inspired by the Turkish marching Janissary bands who led the army. As I said, the Turks never gained entry into the city of Vienna, but they certainly left not only the instruments and their style of music behind, but also brought coffee. And who can imagine Vienna now without coffee? I'm going to move on to another set of 3 contrasted pieces. I'm starting off with a piece of Scott Joplin. Almost every Wednesday session since we've started has included a ragtime. I'm a great fan of Scott Joplin's music, not particularly ragtime, but Scott Joplin's ragtime. There's a real freshness and a classic air to all of his music. And the piece which I'd like to play for you is one of my favorites, called Elite Syncopations. Syncopation referring to the offbeats, the ragged rhythms, this jaunty rhythm that you hear in the right hand, but principally the left hand carrying almost like a march, very straight on the beat, but the right hand has all these melodies and all the ragged edge, a syncopated edge to the music. The second piece, a complete change of scene, a change of pace, the Pavane for the Earl of Salisbury by the 15th century composer, I think, English composer William Byrd, it's B-Y-R-D. And then ending off this session of 2 transcriptions, song transcriptions by the amazing George Gershwin. George Gershwin's family had arrived in Russia, Gershwinovitz, and shortened their name to Gershwin. And George Gershwin was a very brilliant and talented musician who really had an amazing ability to combine the elements of both jazz and classical music and popular music with incredible style and wonderful essence, panache, sophistication, ease, beautiful melodies, great sense of rhythm. And so these 2 songs I'm going to play from his very short song transcriptions, The Man I Love, followed by I Got Rhythm. Ending there, fast, brilliant music from George Gershwin. His arrangement, I Got Rhythm, and The Man I Love. And before that, I played the beautiful, very charming Pavane, sort of very early keyboard music by William Byrd, the Pavane of the Earl of Salisbury. And I started off that session with Elite Syncopations, very popular and very wonderful ragtime by Scott Joplin. Now, we're going to come back to some English music, the old English sound. This evening has been such a beautiful afternoon. I wouldn't say that autumn's in the air because I know that it's still the middle of summer and the hot, humid days of February are around us, but we've had some rather cool weather for the last day or two. And today it's just been a beautiful afternoon of clear skies and a certain just very natural, calm warmth in the air, and I thought, well, this would be a perfect opportunity to remind us of that wonderful, that feeling of almost like an English summer, those beautiful long evenings. So I'm going to start off with a wonderful and very popular piece of music by the American composer, Dave Grusin. This is from his soundtrack, the theme to the film On Golden Pond. It's a very beautiful, touching melody that he writes. I play my own improvisation and my own version around it. Straight after that, I'm going to play a very haunting nocturne, the Nocturne in C-sharp minor, opus posthumous, by Frédéric Chopin. So this is really one of Chopin's most unique pieces, I think, in that he expresses something very personal. It's often thought to be not his greatest composition, but it certainly has something very unique and personal about it in terms of it's almost a very that he wrote to his family. It was published only in the early part of the mid-1950s or so for the very first time, and he wrote it to his family as a remembrance of times that they had. He quotes one of his own compositions, one melody from the second piano concerto that they would have known and understood the reference to that. That's in the middle of the piece, but the outer sections have this very haunting refrain of great longing and melancholy. And then the third piece, another improvisation this time around a very old English melody, Green Sleeves. I was asked for this once by Jack and Max in Middelburg, and I'm going to have another go and see what comes out of it, a different key this time, see what different atmospheres we can get from my version of Green Sleeves. So this is On Golden Pond, the Nocturne in C-sharp minor, and Green Sleeves. was a rather searching, might have been the right word, adventurous little trip around the melody of Greensleeves, famous English melody. Before that, I played the Chopin Nocturne in C sharp minor, opus posthumous, published after his death. And starting off that section of three pieces, I began with the theme from On Golden Pond, really magnificent, very touching, beautiful film with music by Dave Grusin. I'm going to end off this evening's session with a selection of three tangos, various tango pieces, tango styles. The first of which by the Brazilian tango composer Ernesto Nazareth. There's a piece called Rebelicio, which refers to a specific hip movement in the dance of the Brazilian tango. And it's in the same key and in a similar style, I think, as the last piece on the program, which I'm going to play, which is the famous La Comparsita. Now, La Comparsita is such a fascinating piece of music. It is so simple, and yet it is quintessentially part of the tango culture and tango style. In fact, in a milonga, which is a gathering, in any tango dance evening, apparently, I'm told, when I've played in tango bands, this has always happened, that in fact the very last item on the program, the very last dance number to be danced to, is always La Comparsita. And it's such a fascinating melody. It was composed by a young student, 19-year-old student, Gerardo Matos Rodriguez, and he composed this as a march, a very simple march, a very simple melody. And a colleague of his, a friend of his in the tango band, added a melody here and there and added words, and the piece just drifted off into the world, the tango world. And years later, about 20 or 30 years later, he discovered by the grapevine that in fact this composition had become a huge hit in Paris in the 1930s, and every band, and there were numerous recordings and royalties being paid. He thought, well, wait a minute, this is my little melody, this is my tune, then why on earth am I not getting the royalties, or why am I not being listed as the composer? So in fact there was a legal battle, an extended legal battle which went on between him and various other people. They had changed the name of the song, they had added other words, they had changed, they had added melodies and chorus to it, but still essentially the same march tune, La Comparsita, remained. And it was eventually settled that everyone involved in this collaborative creation, as it had morphosized, that's the right, metamorphosized into a completely new piece of music, but that Gerardo Matos Rodriguez would get 80% of the royalties. And that's how it ended. And of course, then the most unusual thing is that the piece is actually not Argentine composer. He was in fact from Paraguay, and of course this became a huge issue when I think in the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, the Argentinian Olympic team marched proudly onto the field to the music of La Comparsita, only be told afterwards actually it was a Paraguayan composer who composed your melody. Thank you very much. So it's a really fascinating tune, a fascinating story, and in my preparation today, I'm going to play a quite straightforward version of it. But in the preparation, I realized that it offers a lot of possibility for improvisation, and such a simple tune. It can be loosely moved into various other departments as well. And between those two tangos, between Rebelicio and La Comparsita, I'm going to play a beautiful Astor Piazzolla. This year we're celebrating Piazzolla's 100th anniversary of his birth in 1921, and this is his most beautiful composition called Oblivion. Yes, Lucy, you are here. Right, here comes Lucy. Lucy is saying, I'm talking too much, don't talk so much, and pick me up and let everyone see me. Lucy, would you like to dance the tango? Have you danced to La Comparsita? La Comparsita. Do you like La Comparsita? Not sure. When you went to finishing school, did they teach you how to tango, Lucy? No, yes, they did. Okay. There we go. Little Lucy, the long-haired Dachshund. You're becoming quite a star, huh? And you went to the parlor, so now you're all soft and fluffy. Now, you're going to go and sit there with Wendy, Pop,
and Frida, pop on your special cushions. Even Granny Lulu's not here today. Okay, you're going to go and sit there in your basket, and I'm going to play some nice tangos for the people. In your basket, in your basket. Good girls, in your basket. it's not uncommon for a martini glass or a tequila glass to go flying during a selection of tangos. So sorry about that, I got quite a shock. I think Barry knocked a glass over. So that was La Comparsita by Gerardo Matos Rodriguez. Quite a name to pronounce. Gerardo Matos Rodriguez. Uruguayan composer who composed that. And before that, the beautiful Oblivion by Astor Piazzolla, who combined elements of tango with film music and contemporary music. We still got some more music of his coming in the next few weeks. And then to start off, a lovely little piece called Rebelicio by Ernesto Nazareth from the Brazilian tango repertoire. Yes, Lucy? Okay. Which one, Lucy? Which of those tangos did you like most? Which was your favorite, do you think? Did you have a favorite? All of them, okay, all of them. All of them were Lucy's favorite, apparently. So that brings us to the end of this evening's session. We hope you've enjoyed the music. Let me know what your experience is about playing the same repertoire, not the same, but popular repertoire. It's always good to hear music that we know. Everyone likes to hear something that they recognize, and it's also nice to hear fresh and unusual music. I will be playing next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, a very original program of music that I've researched quite extensively to find some new, fresh and ideas, beautiful melodies. Classical program, and this Saturday I'm playing a very exciting, some really challenging music for me, including Liszt's Mephisto Waltz and Beethoven Sonata Les Adieux, and some sonata in A minor by Mozart, and 3 versions of the legend as portrayed, the legend of Ondine as portrayed by Debussy, Ravel, and Chopin. So it's going to be a very fascinating program, and there's a story in each piece. So it always just helps to understand the music knowing that there's a narrative following through the thread. Thanks to Barry for the technical support in our very relaxed sort of summer garden setting we have this evening. And thanks to the girls for behaving. Thanks Frida and Lucy. And thank you to everyone who has been supporting us. I sent out another email to my mailing lists and updated my website today. Huge thank you to everyone who is supporting me either weekly or monthly or every couple of months. Once off spontaneous donations, there's a QR code for both Quicket and the Yoko, which is a direct credit card facility. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you for coming along. Hope you've enjoyed the music. And look after yourselves, stay well, keep well, and see you next time.